pandemic, a massive societal shift aimed at slowing spread of the COVID-19 virus. With normal human relations thoroughly disrupted, have we done too little or too much to counter the ongoing threat? In the nation's capital, Bernie versus Biden, mano a mano. Could tonight's head-to-head Democratic debate be Sanders' last best chance to stave off ultimate defeat? And here at home, the Texas oil patch braces for contraction and layoffs amid slumping demand and a global price war. How hard and deep will the coming downturn rock the Lone Star State? I'm Greg Groogan, and welcome to Watch Your Point, where our panelists call it like they see it. Let's greet them. Starting us off, legendary reporter turned investigative media consultant Wayne Dolcefino. Next up, longtime super neighborhood leader Tomaro Bell. In the 3 spot, Bob Price, associate editor of Breitbart Texas. Batting cleanup, senior Fox 26 legal and political analyst Chris Tritico. Next up, conservative lawyer and commentator Michele Maples. And closing us out on the hot corner, urban reform advocate Charles Blain. Let's begin. Human fragility on full display in the face of a viral transmission now labeled pandemic. National, state, and local leaders have initiated extreme precautionary measures.
A national emergency. 2 very big words.
We're going to make it through this.
There's no need to go and bum rush the grocery stores.
Schools, concerts, festivals, meetings, conventions, and the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo all canceled. NBA, MLB, NHL, XFL, and the NCAA's March Madness shut down indefinitely, all triggered by the advice of medical experts out of an abundance of caution to minimize the overall infection rate. The disruptive impact is without precedent, at least in my lifetime, and it's only just begun. Panel, I ask you, what is your point? Starting with you, Chris Tritico.
So I think that our local leaders have responded effectively and appropriately under the circumstances. The canceling of the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo is going to cause a huge economic problem here in Harris County and Houston, but they had no choice, and they did it when they knew they had to do it. And so they weighed the options and did exactly what they had to do. From the national level, there's been no leadership on this from the president. He only acted when the stock market started falling, and that's his barometer. And what the president tried to do was ignore this because he didn't want it to affect his reelection campaign. And so he acted when he felt he had to, and only because he felt it was now hurting him. That's a shame.
Wayne, is this an overreaction?
Look, first of all, we're too clase today, right?
I agree.
Second of all, Tony's not here, and that's the appropriate amount of social distancing.
That's racist.
Tony, okay? It may be. That was good. Charles playing Tony. Look, I don't want to make light of this, okay? I get it. People are going to get sick. Some people are going to die. I will not comment on the president yet. I'll say that for later, but I will comment about the rodeo. Look, Disney World is open until tonight. The rodeo should have stayed open. It was too early to panic. Look, I get it, but I think there's a little panic thing going on. And I heard a guy on CNN this morning going, well, why are people panic shopping? Maybe because you scared the crap out of everyone. Look, I have MS. I have diabetes. If there's anyone on this stage that's going to get whacked, it's going to be me. Right?
Stop touching me.
I'm going to start hugging and licking tomorrow, okay?
His ass about to fly.
I'm serious now. Look, people, 98, 99% of people are going to be okay, even if the worst possible thing in the scenario happened. And I just think everyone should start calming down, and HEB should have meat again. They had no meat yesterday.
Okay, Tomaro, I'm going to bring you in, but the common sense move that the governor made was cutting off access to the most vulnerable, to the older folks in nursing homes. I mean, I thought that was smart. Tomaro, go ahead.
Listen, talking about, let's get back to the rodeo. The guy who has the virus, who went to the rodeo, went to the cook-off on the 28th, several days ago, he still would not even tell them what tent he's in. He's in critical condition, Okay, the rodeo responded the way the rodeo should have responded. There's already a connection to him with the lady in Galveston County who had direct contact with him, who now has it, who went to Austin after she left here and got sick up in Austin. Let me tell you, local officials did the right thing. And you want to talk about the media scaring everybody and they panic and shopping? You telling me cutting down the largest country on the planet, China, shut down. That didn't panic people? You think China care if you're a Democrat or Republican? They could care less. They care about their people. That should let people know, oh my God, this is a very small world, a very small world. People travel, you can be in another country in a day. So they shut it down. We should have been getting ready, but we couldn't. Because you see, the office that works on pandemic and world illness, they got disbanded.
Okay.
Next.
Bob Price, you've been covering this. We've been having discussions for weeks now. I mean, what is your take? Do you think the president's providing adequate leadership?
Absolutely. Well, your statement was blatantly false. While the Democrats were doing nothing but impeaching the president, locking down the Congress from taking any action whatsoever for 2 solid months in the middle of this crisis, the president stopped people from flying in here from China, which prevented the widespread things that you've seen in Europe. Europe did not stop those flights, and look what's happening over there. This president has provided excellent leadership in this issue, and we do not have the crisis in the United States that we would have had he not taken that action. As far as the rest, you know, the issue about the people being fired in the White House, that's not true. They reallocated positions, they moved things around. Those people were not fired. That's fake news that's going on out there. We need to stop this partisan politics and get everybody on board on this issue
That office,
and get it solved.
No, that
Stop.
office was disbanded.
Hold on.
So the president is taking the right actions on this to protect the United States. The biggest problem, though, we've stopped flights from Europe, we've stopped flights from China. The southern border is still wide open to anybody that wants to cross.
Okay, Michele Maples, hold on. Michele Maples needs a chance.
I was say he made comments. I want to make
Hey,
my
Tomaro, relax.
You know, you've been at home. You've been at home watching, and you're part of a business.
Right.
What's your take?
I think it's all overblown. I think that everybody is acting surprised that we're in panic mode, but then you go and you turn on the TV for 10 minutes and you're told to be in panic mode. And one thing about the federal government, if the FDA didn't have so many dang regulations, private companies could have started developing testing earlier. But because of that red tape and because of the regulations, the testing couldn't get done as fast as it needed to be. I think Trump has done a very good job with the travel ban. And I heard Mexico now wants to close the border to us. I think that's racist. But I think it's a way to contain this issue, and the panic has got to stop.
Okay, Charles Blain, then back to Tomaro.
Yeah, I mean, my concern is the local economies. You mentioned these festivals and concerts and all these other things. They're such a boon to the local economies, and I think you have a lot of these vendors who rely on this to make their bread and butter for the year. So to see a lot of this happen, it's going to be interesting to see what the larger economic impact is for these local economies. And also, you know, you folks, places like Asia Town that are suffering because people are afraid to go there. So I like to see local state reps and others encouraging people to get back into these communities and start to frequent them again, because I think that the local impact is going to be major when it comes to this after everything is said and done.
Okay, Tomaro, rebuttal.
Listen, first off, the leader of that department was let go abruptly. Of course, they had to say he quit fired. That department was disbanded. They were not given the assignments to keep up with global health, which they should have still been doing, but they weren't. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm sure y'all have the video, that president that's doing such a great job said it was a hoax. Okay? Said it was a hoax.
That is absolutely not
No,
what
he
he
said it was.
Making stuff up just
I'm
like the
not
liberal
making
media.
stuff
Absolutely you
up.
are.
Just like the right-wing
That is-
media.
no.
Trump can't do nothing wrong. Trump can't, everything he do is right. Then to come out and sit up here and say the media is causing these people panic. You have countries in Europe and in China that shut down. If that wasn't enough to make you panic, that was enough to make you panic. I don't get the toilet paper thing, but that what happened in Italy and China is enough to make you panic.
We got a whole hour to talk about this. Okay, up next, fallout from COVID-19 continues to crush the stock market. Will the health crisis slam America's economy into recession? That topic front and center after the break. For financial markets which thrive on certainty, the heaping helping of the unknown presented by COVID-19 spread prompted vicious volatility and the biggest one-day plunge since the 1987 crash. Overall, the markets are down more than 26% since January and have entered full bear mode with a net loss exceeding $11 trillion. The Trump administration has reacted with a $1.5 trillion injection of capital from the Federal Reserve to ease risk of a credit crisis. To borrow a term, blood is in the streets, at least in a financial sense. It is. Question, how long will this contraction continue? I'm going to go to you, Wayne.
Look, we may know, I think in the next several weeks, 4 weeks, if it's really going to be like 1 million people dead kind of stuff they scare us with. But back to tomorrow. Look, the federal government, all government, is horribly inefficient. Can I give you some breaking news? They don't do anything right, okay? Moving a couple of bureaucrats out of some office doesn't change anything, and anyone who thinks it does is just spewing anti-Trump stuff. The reality is, nothing Trump could have done about testing in a week or two would have made a difference because the government is not set up that way. Our health system, right or wrong, was not set up that way. And to blame him for that, which is the early narrative in this deal, I just think is unfair.
Okay, let's look forward to the economy. I mean, how long do you think this is going to last and how deep? And we went through 2008. And it took us 3 or 4 years to get out of it.
I mean, yeah, you look at, this all started, I think Wayne is right in the sense that nothing that could have been done at the start of this was going to slow any of this. And if you look at China now, they're reporting that out of the 13 emergency hospitals they built to deal with this, the last one closed recently, 65,000 people have recovered. So you're starting to see things getting better there. And I think as you start to see that spread throughout the country, as countries continue to, quarantine and close their borders and take extra precautions like washing your hands, which should have happened before that, you're going to start to see some reassurance, and you're going to start to see people more assured in the market and insured in our health. And so I think it's going to start to come back. I don't know that all the losses that we had are going to, be immediately gained back, but I think we're going to start to see some sort of resolution here.
That's a gut punch to economic activity, but we'll get through it. Okay. Still ahead, challenging events demand firm and thoughtful leadership. So how are those we've given authority performing under pressure? Our panel issues some report cards when we come back. Contending with crisis is and always has been the ultimate test of leadership. President Trump, Governor Abbott, County Judge Hidalgo, and Mayor Sylvester Turner will all be measured by the decisions made during this critical time. They will also be judged by the tone of their message and capacity to maintain, through their communication, confidence that our government is acting in the best interest of the citizens it serves. So, how are they doing, Chris?
Well, and we've been talking about this. I guess I jumped the gun on that topic. But, let's start with the president. He waited and tried to act like there's no problem here. And by waiting, he got behind the 8 ball. I don't blame the president for the testing, as Wayne seemed to indicate that I was. I don't blame the president for the testing lag. And I don't blame the president for the fact that the initial test that were sent out had a problem. President Trump had nothing to do with the fact that those tests had a problem. But I do blame the president for dismantling Obama's pandemic team. And he did do that. Mm-hmm. And by dismantling that team, he put the United States behind the 8 ball and behind the rest of the world. And by sitting back and doing nothing, he put us behind. And that's where I blame the president. From the governor down in the state of Texas, I think we've done an outstanding job in keeping Texas as safe as we can. What I do think that our leaders can be doing is trying to calm us and try to stop people from going in and panic buying.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to those drive-through testing centers getting open here in Houston. Go ahead, Bob.
Chris, I've been covering this since the only Corona you knew about was a beer. So the president did not do nothing during the month of January. We've been talking to the CDC since January. CDC is who's responsible for this, not some team of bureaucrats in the White House. The CDC has been pushing this issue. They've been monitoring what's going on in China. They've been developing the tests. They've been getting the testing processes done. It took a little time because that's the way our government works. But the president has displayed outstanding leadership on this issue. His job is twofold. His job is to make sure we're safe, and his job is to make sure that we don't panic. And that, unfortunately, the panic part is getting fueled by people like you that are saying the president is doing nothing and not providing leadership. So let's get forward on this. Let's all get together and work to solve this problem. It's not as bad as everybody's thinking it's going to be, but it is a serious problem. The governor did the right thing in shutting down visitations to nursing homes. Courts are shutting down now so that we don't have big jury pools gathering in large groups. Hospitals are taking appropriate actions. Leadership at all levels is working together, including the President of the United States.
Now, Tomaro, what's your take? What's your report card on leadership?
on my leadership, I would like to commend the local government, including Governor Abbott, for stepping up and taking the steps that he did. The delusions of that this was handled right, you have got to be out your mind. This was not
I'm
handled
just
right.
dealing with facts.
No,
I'm
no,
not
you're not
dealing
dealing with no facts because this was fake news, okay? This was fake news. So I'm telling you, I'm glad that everybody is now paying attention and looking after this. I said this before when we were off camera. The private sector should have been brought into this sooner. Had it not been for Ed Emmett getting on when we had Harvey, telling people if you got a boat, you need to go save some people, and us getting the Cajun Navy and others coming in and help. Those are not government people. Those are private citizens helping citizens. On my block, we helped each other during Ike, during Alicia and other storms. You need the private sector. I think the private sector should have been brought in earlier. You know, and I don't know who, I'm not saying the president should have called them, but somebody should have called them and say, hey, if you have testing abilities, we need them. They should have been done before this. The government has a list of vendors, and they could have brought them in. I am happy to see that the local government is looking, especially with the schools. And then when I heard Lakewood was going to do their stuff. We have technology now, even the colleges, where you can take courses by computer. You don't have to be in front until this rides out. We know it will pass, or it will pass. This too shall pass. We know that. And if it had not been for China locking everybody down and giving it a chance to ride it out, that's the same thing we got to do. Just ride it out.
Wayne, 30 seconds.
Oh gosh. Okay. So look, I don't even know what to say.
I know I need to scoot over from your sick ass.
The reality of this is that while President Trump has said some things that I don't think are particularly helpful in tweets, the very first thing he did was basically shut travel from China down. And by the way, all the liberals out there said, what a xenophobic move. You just hate Chinese people. Actually, it's turned out to be one of the, I think we can all agree, one of the smartest things to do is cut travel. My problem early on was this was partisan. You know, there are polls that show that Democrats get more freaked out than Republicans about everything, okay? But in this particular case, the first mayors that jumped the boat here were Democratic mayors in some of these big cities. Look, I actually think Sylvester Turner, and I criticize him a lot, I've been fine with what he's done. I really do. I think he's actually done a pretty good job. I think Lena Hidalgo should God help us, please elect somebody who actually knows how to run the county. But I think Sylvester Turner's done a good job. But the problem is they did it too soon. They panicked everybody. That's not smart either.
Okay, Charles, final word on this topic.
Yeah, so I'm going to try to go quick. So the president and Mayor Turner, I give B minuses to because they need to lead by example. The president and Turner were talking about social distancing. The president's holding press conferences after potentially being exposed and before getting tested. And Turner was going to events with a lot of people as well. So they need to lead by example. Turner did really well, though, by suspending water disconnections, which I think is a big deal, and I think that's really great. Yep. Flip side, Hidalgo and Abbott get A's because rhetoric has been good. They've been acting really well. Hidalgo came out and said that the officer wasn't working with them, which I thought was good. Put the blame on him because he needs to be working with them. And the governor with doing the stuff for the old folks' homes, banning visitations, and suspending trucking regulations, I think that was big, and so great job.
Okay, we're going to leave it right there. Still ahead, a perfect storm in the worst possible way. How pandemic and price war are punishing the Texas oil patch. We're going to discuss the implications, so stay with us. Okay, a little bump shot. Swift and ferocious, the 1-2 punch of a coronavirus-driven drop in demand and a global petroleum price war has knocked the Texas oil and gas industry to its knees. Bottom line, tens of thousands of layoffs are coming, along with a huge drop in state revenue that will likely drive Texas into recession. Michele Maples, it's your industry. It's in a bind right now.
It is. So we have seen the onshore production here in the U.S. decline for a couple of months now. This should not be any of a huge surprise to people inside the oil and gas industry. So let's take that steady decline for the onshore U.S. production. And then we have got Russia and we've got Saudi Arabia, who are now in a race to the bottom to produce the cheapest that they absolutely can produce, and that's driving the price per barrel down. So what happens when you get below that break-even point, when it is more expensive to produce the oil or it's more expensive to produce the gas than it is to actually consume it? And so that's what we're seeing is sort of this perfect storm happen between these foreign countries and the steady decline. And then on top of that, let's add this corona hysteria where we're all sitting inside of our four walls. We're not going and filling our gas tanks up anymore. And so that brings the demand even further and the oversupply. So this was just a natural market that was going to happen. And we've seen it before. Houston has survived before, and we will survive again. Okay, I talked to an oil economist who said this could cost the Texas economy $120 million per day. That's real money over the course of 6 months. Chris, you've lived through downturns in this town. You worried?
Well, I'm worried not for the short run, but for the long run, because when you have that kind of a hit, it affects every part of our economy. It affects education, higher education. It affects literally every part of Texas' economy, and it has a ripple effect all over the country. And when you have something like this happening, and you have Saudi Arabia and Russia doing this, and I think, and I'm no economist, but I think it's a direct result of the United States trying to take the lead globally on the oil stage, and they're trying to say no, you're not, and that's really what's happening here. This is going to affect the entire United States economy if it keeps up too long, and we're already seeing, because of the coronavirus, we're already seeing a hit on the economy. This could really have a long-standing effect.
About 15 seconds.
The downturn in this is temporary in nature, but the good news for the rest of the country is that gasoline prices have dropped about 25%, which is better than getting a tax break. So those that depend on gasoline for their livelihood will have more money to spend.
Okay, we'll watch it. Coming up, the two-man battle to top the Democratic ticket. With the nation on edge, Biden faces Sanders tonight in a head-to-head debate. We discuss the likely strategy and the stakes after the break. Oh, by the way, in the Democratic race to face President Donald Trump in the fall, former Vice President Joe Biden put another whooping on one-time frontrunner Bernie Sanders. Tuesday, Biden bagged victories in 5 of 6 states, including the big prizes, Michigan, Missouri, and Washington. With his path to nomination narrow at best, Senator Sanders pledged to continue his campaign. But the coronavirus pandemic has all but halted rallies. Even tonight's debate was moved from Arizona to a studio absent onlookers in the nation's capital. Some states are even postponing their primaries. That said, could tonight's confrontation be Bernie's last and perhaps best chance to reverse his slide? Wayne, what do you think?
First of all, Tulsi Gabbard should be in this debate. I'm sorry. She's still running. And the Democrats are the most hypocritical people in the world to say, well, there's no women left. It's no fair, no people of color. You ought to let her debate. Because if she debated these two old white guys, okay, she'd kick their butts, okay? I actually think these two old guys on the stage is not going to be a good look for the Democrats. And I also think Bernie should stay in until the very end to the convention. Because right or wrong, Bernie Sanders has a lot more energy behind his followers than Biden's followers who vote for him because of some history of 10 years ago.
Now let's talk to a Democrat.
This said from an old man himself who supports an old man who's in the White House.
What?
How you gonna talk about what the candidates look like on the Democrat side? What do you have in the White House? That's a 7 and a 2, not a 2 and a 7. Get with it, okay? All right.
Calling me an old man,
Too
girl.
late. Anyway, tonight, number one, I'm very glad that they canceled the audiences and all that. That's very good. But I do not understand, cannot comprehend the grasp that Bernie has on young millennials. I don't get it. I got one in my house that think the man is the best thing since sliced bread. So I don't know what he's gonna do tonight, but it's not much he can do to change my mind.
Okay, I want to go to Chris Tritico. Is there anything Sanders can do to reverse course and get, claw his way back into front-runner status?
Well, let me answer your question first. What his hold is he everything free? That's why. Now, look, if you look back to Super Tuesday, if Bloomberg hadn't been in that race, Biden would have won every state but California, and this thing would have already been over. And so I don't think there's anything Bernie can do at this point, and I think from here on out, Biden's going to win just about every other state. And I think this is probably over at this point. Bernie Sanders is probably going to stay in through a few more races, but if he doesn't start picking up something, he's got to bow out, and I think this is just about over for him.
Okay, about 30 seconds for each. Go, Bob.
Bernie's last chance is to play the Ukraine card, but he won't do that. He refused to play the Clinton email server card during that campaign, so he won't do what it takes to win, which is, you know, he's never gotten anything done anyway.
Right.
I agree with you. I wish Tulsi was in the debate. The Democrats should quit changing the rules to force these people out.
Okay, Michele Maples, I know you're watching from the sideline.
Giggling.
Biden, is he coasting now?
Absolutely right. So I think with the Bernie momentum, that is just an example of the loudest get the most airtime, which then makes you believe that Bernie perhaps had more supporters than he actually did. And we saw this with the turnout. Young people, I want free, but I don't actually have to walk a mile to go vote for the guy. But Biden, I think, is coasting from here on out.
Okay, Charles, are you going to watch the debate tonight, and what will you be looking for? Does Bernie have to, like, really clock him?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that Bernie has a shot, but I am going to be watching it. I'm going to be watching to see what Biden says and does, because he's in a position of needing to unify the Democratic base if he's going to have any chance in November. Those Bernie bros, the folks who are supporting him, yes, because he's offering free stuff, but also because he's giving them something to be excited about, a hope and change kind of Obama-esque message. That's why they're behind him. Biden doesn't have that. So unless he figures out a way to pull over young folks and inspire them, then I think he's going to have, and minorities, I think he's going to have trouble going into November because Trump has that message for his base.
Okay, I'm going to do something, take a position here. Tulsi Gabbard has zero chance of being elected.
Doesn't
zero
matter.
chance.
She's got delegates. She's got delegates. She should be on the stage. She met the rules that the
I love to see these Republicans.
Go ahead, Wayne. Go ahead.
First of all, we might as well just not have an election. Let Greg Groogan just run the darn thing.
I accept.
Okay. Second of all, President Biden. The good news is, because of coronavirus, if we have President Biden, his son will help create the vaccine. He'll be part of that company.
Oh,
yay!
We got to get out of here. Still ahead. A heartbreaking development on the border. A woman and her unborn child killed while trying to cross into our country. That incredibly sad development is up for discussion when we come back. Somehow is bound to happen. A pregnant Guatemalan woman abandoned by smugglers suffered fatal injuries to both herself and her unborn child after falling off the border wall near Clint, Texas. The severely injured woman was still alive when Border Patrol agents found her at the base of a 20-foot barrier, but doctors were unable to save either the mother or her baby. Our own Bob Price reported on this terrible loss for Breitbart. Bob, what's your take here?
Well, this is another very sad example of what's happened with the cartels, the terrorist organizations that are the drug cartels in Mexico, who control 100% of who approaches and who crosses these borders. Our failure to stop this and secure the border is why this woman is dead. We've given the cartels an opportunity to make more money by smuggling people than they make from smuggling drugs. And this has got to stop. They're running ad campaigns down in Guatemala, where this young woman was from, where they're telling them, you get to the United States with a baby and you get to stay. It's not true, but they're making billions of dollars, $5 billion last year, off of smuggling people across this border. The woman's husband, who was with her, the baby father, told the Border Patrol agents that they made her climb this fence, 8 months pregnant. They made her climb a 20-foot fence in the middle of the night. She fell and tragically died.
We have done more than 230 shows, and we can go back to the first 5 or 10. We're still talking about these tragedies. Chris, I mean, what do we do as a country?
Well, look, this is the highlights what we've been talking about with this border fence all along, and this is horrible. It's a horrible tragedy that someone 8 months pregnant would climb this fence and fall over. We were told when we built the fence that it would be unclimbable. And we know now that if an eight-month pregnant lady can climb that fence, it's not what it was said it would be. And that was one of the objections that was made to building it at all. I don't know what the answer is to the border. I don't want illegal aliens crossing our border, but I don't want a fence built that would allow an 8-month pregnant lady to climb it who could fall over it and kill herself and her baby.
Okay, there are going to be people who say, this woman and her partner took this chance. I mean, it's personal choice. They took the risk. You know, I hate it that this happened, but people are breaking the law. I mean, Wayne?
Look, it's horrible. Look, I feel bad for people who want to go to another place. I really do. But we cannot afford in this country to be taking anyone in who we have to support. And look, 60, 70 years ago, and I say this all the time on the show, when people talk about immigration 60, 70 years ago, and when the Italians came, look, we didn't ask the government for nothing. We should have a law in this country that folks who come here, especially illegally, get nothing from us. If they still want to come and want to live like that, we ain't giving them a dime. That'll
Literally
stop
5
something.
seconds.
Chris didn't know this, but the wall that she climbed was the outdated technology that's being replaced.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Up next, was it responsible fact-finding or, as some claimed, a political vendetta? Fearing for their livelihoods, Harris County constables push back hard against Commissioner Adrian Garcia. We'll discuss the outcome after the break. Welcome back. It was a very rough week for Harris County Precinct 2 Commissioner Adrian Garcia, a former sheriff and police officer. Garcia proposed a taxpayer-funded efficiency study of the private security contracts between the county's 8 constables and the dozens of Houston area neighborhoods they patrol. The surprise move was met with vocal and unanimous opposition from all the constables and an accusation from Commissioner Steve Raddick that Garcia was attempting to execute a personal vendetta against the agencies.
We believe this is just the beginning of your means to the end, and that is to reduce the services of the constables.
So since I've been in office, you've been doing everything you could to undermine my office, and this time it stopped.
Pelted with opposition, Garcia withdrew his unpopular proposal before it came up for a vote. Tomaro Bell, you witnessed that whole fight. Got in the middle of it a little bit too, huh?
Listen, what he did was tabled. He tabled it. Anybody who watches politics or table mean I'm gonna wait till all y'all go home and bring it back again. Commissioner Raddick, after I spoke, Commissioner Raddick said, you know what, let's make a motion and end it, because that's what I wanted. It needed to be in. When someone decides to take money from their family that they can use for food, shelter, clothing, or whatever, and pay for a semblance of peace of mind behind extra security, who are you to take that from them? And what shocked him was when I say nonpartisan, every part of Harris County, the good, the bad, the ugly, the socialist, the Democrat, Republican, independent, libertarian, everybody came. It was over 140 speakers registered to speak up that day. He was in shock. But the one that blew him away, the one that shocked the hell out of him, was Ed Gonzalez, who got in behind the constables and said, hey, I don't want to be taking this from the constables. I'm with y'all. I'm with y'all. That was the one that literally threw the, as they say, the water on the fire. But I thank and I applaud Jack Hagel very much for making that motion, and the Super Neighborhood Alliance and the other community leaders who came out against this.
Charles Blain, you watched that go down.
Yeah, it was really interesting. Tomorrow's testimony was interesting too, so people should go watch that. But what's interesting is that you don't propose something like this without having an outcome that you know in your mind that you want to come out of this. And Garcia, it was a failure to organize any support for this proposal. I mean, she's right. It was across the board. Mike Knox, City Council member Mike Knox testified against it. Boris Miles sent a letter in against it. I mean, there was no difference in opinion from party on this. Everybody was opposed to ending this program. And what I thought was really interesting was hearing Constable Eagleton testify that he tried to undermine his office and that he refused to meet with him. Garcia refused to meet with him throughout the duration of his term. And then to hear, Constable Mark Herman talk about how they met prior to this and he was misled as to what was going to be on the agenda when it came up. I mean, it just seemed really underhanded, and she's completely right. It is going to come back, and people need to keep their eyes open.
Okay, Wayne, real quick.
Okay, so here's the big scam, folks, all right? Because I used to be an HOA president. The sheriff, the Harris County sheriff, doesn't, and I love Ed Gonzalez, whatever, tomorrow. Look, the sheriff doesn't patrol in neighborhoods where people pay for contract deputies. People, you pay taxes to get security, supposedly. Then you decide to pay extra so you have like 2 dudes or 2 dudettes there, right? Instead, what happens is the sheriff doesn't go in those areas anymore because you have the contract. So neighborhoods all across Harris County, you are getting ripped off. And let me tell you something. I challenge the sheriff on this show to show us the data, and I'll prove my point. This is such a scam, and Adrian Garcia is a testimony to why people shouldn't vote.
Wait a second. I'm hearing that the constable contract program is a force multiplier.
It is.
It is.
Go ahead.
It absolutely is. The county gets free law enforcement based on the fees that are collected from these homeowners associations. When you buy a deputy for your area, you get about 60 to 70% of that deputy's time. They are available the entire time they're on duty to be called to any call anywhere in the county. So that's a great service that these communities are providing to the rest of us. The fact is that without contract deputies, there would be virtually no law enforcement in the unincorporated areas.
20 seconds, Chris.
First, I never heard Adrian Garcia gripe about this when he was sheriff and providing contract deputy services to homeowners associations. But I've always found it somewhat odd that communities would have to pay money to anybody to come out and patrol for them. That's what we're paying our taxes for, and I've always been opposed to it. But it does provide a valuable service to communities to ensure that they have deputies out there.
Okay, going to leave it right there. Still ahead, new revelations of just how much taxpayer money was spent to move and protect a giant collection of privately owned African art. It's a story that's not going away, so stick around. Amid the crisis over COVID-19, Harris County Commissioner Rodney Ellis continues to wrestle with his own serious controversies, which now include the business dealings of his wife. This week, Fox 26 reported an apparent $16,000 taxpayer expense to move the huge collection of mysterious African art into a Precinct 1 warehouse Ellis controls. Add to that confirmation taxpayers picked up the tab for thousands of dollars worth of pest control on the 1,200-piece collection, which was infested with beetles. What we don't know is who owns the art or why Harris County residents are funding its storage. Michele Maples, what do you think of this? It just won't go away.
I think when you look up abuse of power or perhaps corruption, you will see Rodney Ellis's mugshot. I mean, this is ridiculous. We keep hearing that this is public art. This is something that the public has access to, but it's in a locked storage unit that nobody can go in and pay to see or go in and see for free, but yet it's still on the taxpayer's dime. So that leads me to believe that perhaps it's Rodney's art. Rodney doesn't know whose art it is and he doesn't want to give it back. This smells a little fishy to me.
Okay, I want to hear what Chris Tritico has to say about this because, hey, who knows? Maybe you'll get hired by somebody involved.
I wouldn't turn it down. Look, there's going to have to be an inspector general investigation or some investigation of this. The DA's office is going to have to look into this. There's something fishy about this, something going on that's going to have to be looked into. I hearken this back to Bob Eccles in the road to nowhere or the road to the ranch house, where he lost his office over issues almost exactly like this that just came up out of nowhere. And something odd about this, and somebody's going to have to do a full investigation of this.
Yeah, Dennis Bond and Gib Lewis, they lost their offices, for stuff that arguably is less than this. I want to hear your take.
Listen, and I thought it was Jerry Eversole who lost his job because he was paid. So, okay.
Another thing.
But there you go, right there. Look, I want to agree with everything that Michele said, except for one. She said that nobody could see it even for pay or free. Yeah, you can if you're some pretty young chick who we still ain't figured out who on that tape.
Ooh.
Or if you're the family that we still don't know. You get a tour. And you get a tour. Now, we don't get a tour. And the thing about it is not that we just paying for the storage. This stuff has been in storage since 2018. Okay. So we've been paying for over 2 years. Whatever the value is of this, nobody knows, but we do know it was not on the tax register because they can't say who it was who owned it. That is one thing that the public needs to be looking into. Why have we been asked to raise our taxes when this has been hidden in this shed and the county taxpayers are paying for it?
Okay, everybody just stay right here. We are going to continue our discussion of public servants spending your money in questionable ways. What's your point? We'll be right back. Welcome back. In addition to the African art debacle, Commissioner Ellis' wife, Leisha, has drawn the continuing scrutiny of investigator Wayne Dolcefino. Dolcefino contends Ms. Ellis is profiting on a proposed multi-million-dollar deal to sell allegedly contaminated land to the Houston Housing Authority. Wayne, what's wrong with the transaction, and is there any new development?
Okay, so, look, I said in my story, I love Thanksgiving. I love the gravy, okay? It's time for all the gravy to stop in all these public deals. Look, Rodney Ellis goes around talking about public housing. I love politicians who talk about a subject, and then we find out that their family is making money off it. Leisha Green and her partner are not just making money on this one deal, a deal where we're actually going to buy acres of contaminated dirt that no one can live on for a public housing project. Well, like, what third grader doesn't understand that's a bad deal? The rest of the land is surrounded by an incinerator on one side and a lead company on the other, and we want to put 800 poor folks in a neighborhood with schools that already have Fs. This is the stupidest thing. I bet you will see footprints on virtually every major real estate deal involving public funds with those folks. They've been involved in HCC, the Housing Authority. But the best part, I asked for the records of the Housing Authority on people that are on the board who apply. Their applications are virtually blank. They don't even say if they have contracts, but they do ask a question about sexual orientation. What the hell? Who cares?
Who appoints to the board?
This is the mayor's deal. Appoints everybody. City council doesn't get a say. It all leads to, gee, what a shock. Mayor Turner.
30 seconds, Charles Blain,
Yeah, so
on either topic.
Yeah, geez. All right, well, I'm going to stick to Wayne's then. If people have not seen the videos that Wayne has put out so far, they need to go check those out. I think the thing that shocked me the most is just the nasty web that connects all these people. You have Leisha Green, her business partner, whose son happens to direct housing for Rodney Ellis, and then you have like 300 calls to the housing director from Leisha Green. He says their personal business. I mean, it's just crazy. This stuff we need either the DA or someone to come in and step in and start looking into this and breaking this stuff up.
10 seconds.
In addition to all of these scandals, don't forget about the postal scandal where the commissioner's been sending out what appear to be political campaign ads at government expense.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it there, folks. The discussion of political developments on a national level continues with Fox News Sunday and host Chris Wallace. From all of us here, thanks for being with us and have a safe and healthy week.
That's right.